In the Military Museum of China in Beijing, there is a sand table of the Diaoyu Fortress. The fortress was where a history-changing event happened. Mongke Khan of the Mongol Empire was killed here in 1259 at the peak of the Mongol Empire's expanding worldwide. In today's video, I'm going to take you to this fortress located in the Hechuan district of Chongqing. I'll explain the functions of different structures in the fortress and tell you the course of the Siege of Diaoyu Fortress in chronological order. In 1234, the Mongols launched an all-out war against the Southern Song dynasty. Their strategy was to take the Sichuan region and pass along the Yangtze River to capture the capital of the Southern Song dynasty, the present-day Hangzhou. However, in Sichuan, the Mongols encountered strong resistance. The Song commander of the Sichuan region ordered the construction of dozens of fortresses, all built on top of mountains, and moved civilians into those fortresses. Diaoyu Fortress was one of them. The long-term standoff between the Song and the Mongols lasted until 1258. Having heard the trauma of Siege of Baghdad, Mongke Khan decided to break the standoff by leading a large army into Sichuan himself. Mongke Khan entered Sichuan in October of 1258. In the ensuing 3 months, the fortress in Sichuan were conquered one after another. In February of 1259, Mongke Khan reached the Diaoyu Fortress. The chief commander in the fortress refused to surrender. After observing the surroundings, Mongke Khan decided to attack the dock in the south of the fortress. This way, the Song reinforcement coming from the river could be blocked and the fortress would be isolated. Due to the construction of a dam nearby, now the dock is submerged under the water and only the edge could be seen. The Mongols succeeded in occupying the dock, and they also occupied the adjacent hills. The design of the Diaoyu Fortress is similar to vessels with watertight subdivisions. Any flooding resulting from a breach of the hull can be contained in the compartment where the flooding occurs. In case of the Diaoyu Fortress, there are several layers of walls, and the space in between was divided into different compartments. Even the Mongols breach one area, others would not be affected. In March, the Mongols' attacks continued. The Mongols' initial strategy was to break into the gates, but it was not successful. The Song army countered with trebuchets, a popular weapon in the 13th century to throw big stone projectiles. This is called the squatting tiger cannon because it looks like a tiger squatting on the ground. The Song army used this to throw cannons to the Mongols below the walls who were trying to break into the gates. The Mongols also used the trebuchets, but the fortress was high up in the mountain and was surrounded by cliffs. The stone projectiles thrown from Mongols' trebuchets could not reach this height. In addition, certain design of the fortress allowed the Song army to deploy surprising rates. This is the secret cave in Diaoyu Fortress. Once while the Mongols were attacking the Diaoyu Fortress, 50 Song soldiers descended from here and attacked the Mongols from their back. As the Mongols were attacking this gate, all of a sudden, Song soldiers emerged from their back. This is what the cave looks like from outside. It's very difficult to spot on. Till the end of March, the Mongols still couldn't breach the gates. In April, it was raining heavily for 20 days. After the rain stopped, the Mongols changed their strategy. They started night raids on minor defensive structures. These raids surprised the Song army at first, but still, the Mongols were not able to breach the fortress. May was the month of stalemate. Where did food, water, and weapons come from during the siege? There were farmland inside and outside the fortress. Ever since the complete of the Diaoyu Fortress in 1243, the Mongols have laid siege of it every year during the past 15 years. But they didn't station this place all the time. Coming from the cold and dry Mongolian steppe, the Mongols couldn't stand the hot and humid summer in Sichuan region. Therefore, they always came here in the fall and left in the spring the next year. After the Mongols left, civilians in the fortress would go farming in the fields outside the fortress and fishing in the river. They harvested in the fall before the Mongols came again, and the food produced could last for more than a year. Ruin of rice mills was found in the fortress. In addition, there is a big pond in the fortress where people kept fish. There were also many smaller ponds and wells as sources of water. It was said that during the stalemate, the Song army went through 15 kilos of fish and 100 Chinese tortillas to the Mongols and flaunted. There you go, you guys from the north. Have you eaten such delicious food recently? Even if you stay here for another 10 years, you wouldn't be able to get this fortress. This is the ruin of an arsenal in the fortress. Stone projectiles were made here. There were enough stones in the mountain to make projectiles. The fear of being massacred by the Mongols made the civilians in the fortress united. They helped out in fetching the stones. This was the garrison of the Song army stationed in the fortress.
This is a relatively wide road in Diaoyu Fortress, and I feel it's a good place to take wedding photos with the ark.
It turned out I was too romantic. The description on the stone suggests the road was part of the horse riding tracks in the fortress. If there is any attack anywhere, the soldiers could be quickly deployed to the designated place. In June, the Mongols made a breakthrough. They breached the outer wall in an unusual way. Near the Qisheng Gate in the northwest of the fortress, the outer wall spreads on a steep slope all the way up in the mountain. A tunnel found here in 2005 was believed to be dug during the siege of the fortress in 1259. Its terminal point was inside the outer wall. Researchers believe the Mongols dug the tunnel and used it to successfully get into the outer wall.
In a fortress that's built on plan, if you break into the wall, you will be standing on top of the fortress overlooking the town. But that's not the case for a fortress that's built on a hill. In case of Diaoyu Fortress, there is the outer wall and there is the interior wall. When you break into the outer wall, there's way more to go.
Although the Mongols initiated several attacks to the interior wall, they couldn't breach it, and the vanguard of the Mongol force was killed during one of the battles. In July, Mongke Khan couldn't wait anymore. The Mongols had stayed at the Diaoyu Fortress for 6 months, much longer than they would and should. The weather became hotter and hotter. Mongke Khan wanted this to be finished and decided to lead the attack in person. He found an ideal spot, a hill to the southeast of the fortress. The top of the hill is even higher than the fortress. The Mongols installed many troubleshoots in the hill. They also installed a hut on the top of the hill as a watchtower. The battle started. According to some sources, Mongke Khan was standing below the watchtower, beating a drum to encourage his soldiers. The Mongols' morale was high. The Song commander decided to aim at the watchtower. Luck strikes the Song side this time. A stone projectile successfully hit the watchtower. It collapsed, and Mongke Khan, who was standing below it, was wounded. The battle stopped abruptly. Soon, Mongke Khan died. The death of Mongke Khan led to the division of the Mongol Empire. Hulagu, who was about to attack Egypt, remained in Persia permanently. Kublai and Erikbok ended up in a 10-year fight for power. In 1271, Kublai established the Yuan dynasty and assumed the role of the Emperor of China. 8 years later, in 1279, the generals in the Diaoyu Fortress negotiated the terms of surrender with the Mongols. After receiving the promise from the Mongols for not killing any civilian or soldier in the fortress, the 30 generals surrendered and committed suicide. From the construction of the fortress in 1243 to the surrender in 1279, the fortress resisted attacks from the Mongols for 36 years. In northern Guizhou province, there is a fortress built at the same time as the Diaoyu Fortress for the same purpose. That fortress was designed by the same group of people as well, so there are many resemblances between the two fortresses. The fortress avoided attacks from the Mongols, but a fierce battle 400 years later destroyed it. I'm Yan Yan. I make videos about sites of interest in China and histories and stories behind them. Subscribe to my channel. I'll see you next week at Hailong Fortress.